D. Mace, Vingan and Donick, 1025, 1063 The Game. New Titans general manager Mike Borgonzi is now addressing reporters. We take you live to Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park.
And foremost, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank all the other candidates who were part of this rigorous process. Some of these individuals are close professional friends, and all of them are highly respected across the NFL. It was a challenging decision, and we are grateful for their time, effort, and thoughtfulness that they put into this process. Ultimately, we chose Mike to be our general manager, but it's important to recognize that we have an incredible pool of talented leaders in the game today. We're excited to see the paths they will take and the impact they'll continue to make in this league. Next, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to everyone involved in the interview process. Again, this wasn't an easy decision, and it required collaboration and input from many people within our organization, from our ownership group, front office staff, to our coaches and scouts. Your commitment to finding the right leader for this team was invaluable. We truly appreciate all the hard work and dedication. Now, let's talk about Mike. When we set out to find our next general manager, we were looking for someone who not only had a deep understanding of the game, but someone who had a clear vision for building a championship culture and a football team that would be successful year after year. Mike Borgonzi is exactly that person. He brings a unique combination of experience, leadership, strategic thinking that aligns with where we want to be and where we want to go as an organization. And throughout his career, Mike has consistently demonstrated the ability to evaluate talent, build strong rosters, and create an environment where players and coaches can thrive. We firmly believe he is the most well-rounded candidate for the job, and we have every confidence in his ability to lead us to success. Now, Mike and I first met in 2009. I've always admired him from afar. We became professional friends in this business. We've talked over the years about players. We just had a lot of great conversations over the years. And then ultimately, we've been in negotiations with one another. And I felt like I'd rather him being on our team than have to go against him and continue to go against him out there in those negotiations. But obviously, we have a history and a relationship. I'm excited for Mike to have this opportunity, and he truly is the best candidate to lead this franchise into the future. And as we all know, we have a big opportunity ahead of us. First, with free agency, and the NFL draft is fast approaching, and it's a pivotal moment for this team. This will be Mike's first opportunity to put his stamp on our roster, and we're excited to get to work. There's a lot of talent available, and we know that Mike's approach to player evaluation and his commitment to building a team that can contend year after year gives us the best chance to succeed. We're all ready for the challenge, and we're all in this together. Mike, I want to welcome you and your family to the Titans organization. We're excited to see what the future holds under your leadership. We know you're ready to roll up your sleeves and get to work, and we couldn't be more excited for what lies ahead. Thank you all once again for being here today. We're ready to get started and take this next step in our journey toward building a championship football team. With that, I'll turn things over to Mike Borgonzi to share a few words. Mike, the floor is yours.
It's certainly been a whirlwind here for me and my family. for the past 3 days, but we are just tremendously excited to be here today. I want to thank everybody for coming out here today. I am tremendously proud and honored to be named the next general manager of the Tennessee Titans. First and foremost, I would like to me with this opportunity. It is truly a dream come true for me to be a part of the Titans family now. You know, this was a thorough process that we went through, that I went through with the search committee with a lot of great candidates. As I went through my interview last week, I remember calling my wife, Jill, after I left the building, and I said, you know what, I think this is the one for us. It checked a lot of boxes for us. Great ownership, great fan base, great people in the building that I got to meet, and it's Nashville. One of the big priorities for me, if I was going to uproot my family from Kansas City, is a place that we love. It had to be the right fit. And we feel like Nashville is the right fit for our family. And we can't wait to get into the community and start meeting everybody. The other reason why I took this job and I thought it was appealing was because of Chad Brinker. And Chad just mentioned we've known each other since 2009. We've had a great friendship, a great working relationship. I believe in everything that Chad stands for, and I'm thrilled for the opportunity now to partner with him now. I would like to introduce my family now, if you'd like to stand. My beautiful wife, Jill, my son, Joey, and my daughter, Nina. They're my rock. They're my foundation. I would not be up here without them. I love you guys very much. I would like to thank my parents as well, Al and Doris, who are back in Boston. And hopefully they've figured out how to stream this thing now, but it'll be recorded. So they taught me the foundational values of hard work, discipline, and really just doing things the right way with respect and integrity. So thank you to them. To my best friend and my brother, Dave, you know, we pushed each other every day to try to be the very best. Thank you for your friendship and support throughout our journeys. I want to thank Clark Hunt, Tavia Hunt, and the entire Hunt family for allowing me to be part of the Kansas City Chiefs for the last 16 seasons. They're truly a first-class organization, and we had so many great memories there that we will cherish. I'd like to thank all the people in the Chiefs organization that I've developed relationships with over the last 16 years now. Coaches, scouts, support staff, business staff, and of course the players that have helped me get here today. I'd like to give a shout out to my agent, Doug Hendrickson, as well, for his friendship and his tireless work that he put in during this process. To all my mentors that have come along the way, I would be up here for days if I had to name them all, but I do want to acknowledge a few that have really had an indelible impact on my life. First, my high school coach, John DiBiaso, at Everett High School in Massachusetts. You know, early on, he really showed me the blueprint, you know, what it is to have a championship caliber team through hard work, discipline, resiliency, and teamwork that led us to a state championship there. To Phil Estes, my college coach at Brown University, he instilled the mental toughness that is required to be a championship team. He recruited this blue-collar city kid to an Ivy League school and completely changed my life. To Scott Pioli, who believed in me and gave me my first opportunity to work in the National Football League. My family and I will always be indebted to you, Scott. To John Dorsey, who taught me the art of scouting. He gave me an opportunity to be a part of the organization when change came about, and I am forever grateful to him for that. To Andy Reid, a Hall of Fame coach and person who exemplified everything that is good about the game of football. For 12 seasons, I was fortunate to be part of a winning culture that he instilled every day. His work ethic, his humility, and his respect for the game has had a profound impact on me. And finally, I'd like to thank Brett Veach. I met Brett when he interviewed for the Chiefs back in 2013. I immediately formed a bond and friendship with Brett that will last a lifetime. We pushed each other every day to reach a standard of excellence there. So who am I? What are my beliefs and vision for this organization? First off, I'm a little bit of an abnormally. I'm a Northeast guy with a funny Boston accent that loves country music. I'm a proud husband and father that believes in the power of love and connection. I have a passion for the game of football. I have a passion for people. I have a passion for doing things the right way through the values of character, connection, commitment, and communication. The identity of my leadership will be connected, it will be disciplined, and it will be detailed. I believe in what I like to call an us culture, unity over self in everything that we do. We will put the team above individual agendas and make the best decisions for the Titans. I believe in the power of alignment and teamwork throughout the entire organization, where ownership, management, coaching, and scouting are all rowing in the same direction. If it's not, it simply won't work. My vision as a team builder is to draft and develop. We want to build a foundation of homegrown talent and reward those players that meet our standards. We will be relentless in our pursuit of building competition throughout the roster, whether that's the draft, free agency, waiver claims, or trades. And I think it's imperative that we build the right 53 on this roster as well, and not just collect talent. We need the right mixture of talent and character in order to build a championship caliber team. We want a big physical team in the trenches that is fast and violent on the football field. We want players that love the game of football, that are smart, that are tough, that are dependable, and they believe in unity. Make no mistake about it. The most important people in our building are the players. We are here to help, support, and develop them on and off the field to maximize their abilities in order for us to win at a high level in this league. And this will take the efforts of the entire organization to do this. In closing, I'm excited to finally start the process of building and sustaining a championship team here. I can't wait to start working with our scouts, Coach Callahan, his staff, to build the synergy that we need to consistently compete for championships. To the people of Tennessee, we will do everything in our power to represent you in the right way and make you proud to be a Titans fan. Thank you again for this tremendous opportunity. Tighten up. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Mike, when you talk about what attracted you to this position, how much of it was having the first pick and over $50 million in cap space?
Sure, that's pretty attractive. But that wasn't solely the main reason why I came here. Like I said, I told you it was because of ownership. It was because of the people in this building, Chad, Coach Callahan, Burke, Amy, everybody that I've met. And this fan base, which we've played here before. I know what type of fan base this is. I know they're passionate. And like I said, the city of Nashville. So there's a lot of factors that came into play.
Comfort level and understanding of the structure that is in place for you, Chad, so on and so forth.
Yeah, where I came from in Kansas City, we didn't really see any structure. We all kind of worked together to make the best decisions for the team. So we weren't really concerned about titles there. At the end of the day, we were trying to make the best decision for the team at that point.
Can you give us maybe a specific example of somebody or a couple guys that you helped their case with the Chiefs as that guy wound up being part of the roster?
Been there a long time. This process, it starts at these all-star games. We sit in meetings. So when people say, he stood up on the table for this player or that player, we made the decisions long before the draft came. There's certain people, certain players along the way that, we have different opinions on. But at the end of the day, we're making that decision. I would never stamp my name on any player there.
Are you, Mike, I guess, with the current personnel on this team, and what's the process like and kind of making it your own?
Yeah, so I knew a lot of these players coming out of college when I studied them coming out for the draft. Of course, I watched a lot of them here this season before I prepped for the interview. There's some talent on this roster, but we're a 3-win football team right now. So that's not good enough. And we're going to have to look, everywhere to improve it. Whether that's upgrading starters or upgrading depth. And I'll get to sit down more here with the coaches and get a better understanding of all the players. but there's some talent on this roster. We're going to have to upgrade some positions though.
Mike, one of the things that, when you were with the Chiefs, they bottomed out about a decade or so ago, but beyond drafting Patrick Mahomes, obviously,
Yeah.
what was kind of the shift in culture there that turned them around and made them a contender each year?
Yeah. So 2012, we were 2-14, and we had the first pick in the draft in 2013. Andy Reid came in and he instilled a winning culture and changed a lot of the habits of everybody in the organization. We had a different process in drafting at that point. We were more collaborative. And we took to the model of drafting and developing and supplementing free agency when we did, but with the right type of guys. In 2013, it was like Mike DeVito. I don't know if you remember his name, Anthony Fasano, like just tough blue collar guys that were great leaders for the team. And I kind of envision that the same situation here, where we're going to have to fill some holes in free agency, and we want to do it with the right type of guys.
Mike, you said you didn't give much thought to the way the executive structure is kind of put together now. Why isn't that a big deal for you?
Because no one really, is that working? No one really, the 53, it's not a concern. It wasn't a concern in Kansas City. That never came up. There was never a point where we're sitting in the draft room and someone overruled someone because we were taking a player that, the person with the 53 was in charge of. That never happened. We were a collaborative group. We had a cabinet of decision makers there that every move that we made in Kansas City was as a group. So coming here with Chad and knowing Chad, that's the same situation when I was working with Brett. We're going to come and make the best decisions for the team. So it never really crossed my mind.
This may be a naive question.
Yeah.
How is this job different from your last job?
Well, I'll have full authority over the free agent process and the draft, whereas Brett had most of that in Kansas City, and I was here to help and assist. And I see this as a great partnership with Chad, and he can help me along the way because he's come up as a scout, and I'm going to lean on him a lot as well.
What does that mean, full authority over free agency? I thought Chad had full authority on the roster.
Well, I have full authority over the process. Now, Chad will break tie if there's ties. He's in charge of the 53, and that's why that is put in there. But I'll have full authority over running the meetings, the draft. I will pick the players.
Mike, when it comes to that #1 overall pick, what have been the early conversations you've had with Chad and staff?
It's early. We just started. The first thing we're talking about is our roster, and then getting down to the Senior Bowl and the East-West actually first. So we're very early in those discussions.
You mentioned that all options are on the table. I imagine same thing in your eyes.
Yes, we're coming into this. I'm coming into with this an open mind. But we're going to evaluate every situation and make the best decision for us with that pick.
The way you guys build franchises, I think you've said generally takes a lot of patience. What makes you feel confident that there's patience here, given what's happened the last few years, and there's a team coming off a 3-14 record last year?
Yeah, listen, I know the urgency to win in this league, no matter where you are. So we're going to be disciplined in what we do. We're not going to make rash decisions to try to improve the roster the ways we don't think it should happen. Like I said, we'll supplement in free agency, but we want to build through the draft. We need to build that core foundation of players really to change the culture, and that takes a little bit of time.
Chad said he'd like to see 30 draft picks in the next 3 years, 12 in the top 100. How realistic is it to get those picks, and how difficult will it be?
It's certainly it's possible, yeah, to do that. Like I said, we just have to have discipline in the draft as we're going through the process. Draft picks are our biggest form of currency. So when there's opportunities to trade back to collect more picks, we're going to do that. So that's always the goal, to try to get as many picks in the top 100 as you can.
in Kansas City for those 16 years. What did you learn about identifying talent that fits your team? And what is that you're looking for? Like, what's kind of a description of what you're looking for?
Yeah, so I briefly touched on big picture, what you want the team to look like: big, physical, in trenches, fast and violent. So we've had a very collaborative group in Kansas City. We're in constant communication with our coaches. And that's one of the things that, when I just got here now, but I talked with Brian is, I want to meet with every coach on the staff. I want to meet with Brian. I want to see, what the formula is for that player. We're never going to waver on the character part, of course. But in terms of the scheme, we want a profile of what we're looking for that player. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that with Brian and his staff, but that's something we did with Coach Reed and his staff.
Talk about big physical, fast, violent. I imagine that's what everybody's probably looking for this time of year. Just what gives you the confidence that you can separate that and find the people you're looking for rather than just go for what's big?
Yeah, you have to be very thorough in the process and define exactly what you're looking for. So if you want a big, tough offensive line, then those are the guys you take, and you got to go out and find them, whether that's free agency, trades, draft, waiver claims. You have to search under every rock. And if you want to have fast players, look for fast players and identifying those. And like I said, it's not just collecting talent, though. It has to be the right fit with the talent and the character piece.
The draft picks, Mike says that he's got the final say on the draft picks. But if, for instance, with this number 1 pick, if you had a strong conviction that the guy that Mike liked was not the answer, would you be able to overrule Mike on that draft pick?
Like I said before we talked, this is going to be a we decision. You got to understand the process that we go through in all this. We're going to be in that draft room starting when we get back from the All-Star games. No daylight for the month of February. Our process is, we get in the room, we start with the offensive tackles, and we go from the top of the draft board all the way to the bottom. And we watch 3 or 4 games on every guy and start building the board. Once we get to the draft, you let the board talk to you. The work has been done at that point, and you allow the board to talk to you. But ultimately, like I said before, Mike is hired to build this roster, and he's going to get every opportunity to build the roster.
Chad, this is your guys' 3rd attempt at this kind of a structure. What gives you the confidence that this is going to be the thing that gets it right?
I think Mike Borgonzi.
So just to clarify, you guys are setting the board, and you're deciding, okay, here's who we like at number 1. If he has a strong conviction for who number 1 is, and you don't believe that, who then goes in the number 1 slot?
We will work through that together as a team. I know what you're trying to get to. I understand the question, but that's not always how it works inside the NFL building. Mike just kind of talked about that and how the process worked with Andy Reid and Brett Veach and the group over there. It's not going to be any different here. We're all going to be involved in working through that, and we want to be in a room. We want diversity of thought in the room. You want to have healthy debate. You want to go through those things together. And, if Mike sees something in a player that I'm not seeing, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back and watch more tape on that player and vice versa. We're just trying to get to the right decision for the Tennessee Titans. And that's why I believe this partnership is going to work. We both grew up in the same system. And it's not that we're always going to think the same, but I think the process will mine that out, and we'll eventually get to that point where we agree on what we're picking, whether it's number 1 or whatever round that is.
The process, Shrine Week, Senior Bowl, and you evaluate these quarterbacks. How much does getting your hands on and being able to feel them in person go into your evaluation? And then also your experience with and your input in Patrick Mahomes and drafting off of what he can do as opposed to what he has to improve upon. How much would that play into if you guys take a quarterback?
Yeah, the quarterback position, you need to go in person and see that player, whether it's practice, all-star games. So that's going to be a very important part of it. And then just, sitting down, meeting with the player and have Coach Callahan, his staff, talk to him as well as that's a big part of it. When we went through with Patrick, we identified him early. It was a rare skill set that you could see. And we took it through the process in the spring, and we brought him in the building, met with him at the combine to really figure out really his football intelligence, which was very high. And then we had a plan for him when we drafted him. We had Alex Smith at the time, and we were disciplined with that plan. There was a lot of temptations to play him, especially, when you saw him in training camp, but we stuck to that plan. And that was part of the development of the quarterback. There was things that he needed to improve on. And we had a first-class person in Alex Smith that really took him under his wing and taught him that. So every quarterback's different in terms of the development and what they need. And that's the important part for us to figure out here in the spring.
For taking this job, did you start getting calls, feeling out that number 1 pick and that viability?
I think I got some feelers. Yeah, some congratulatory, but yeah, keep in touch.
For both of you, where do you come down on like smart and tough versus big and fast?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Where do you come down on like acquiring smart and tough players versus maybe fast and big?
Yeah, I think we're trying to acquire both. You're trying to marry those up. The character piece is huge for us, and we were going to really rely on our area scouts that go into the schools and during the interview process to try to find out the football intelligence piece, the toughness piece, just their whole competitive spirit. The big physical tough team, the teams that win in this league, and when you get into the playoffs, it's the teams that control the line of scrimmage. So you're going to want big physical tough guys in there. We remade our offense, the offensive line we had in Kansas City with guys like Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and Joe Tooney. So I think it all starts up at front. There was a year that we had a bunch of injuries to the O-line, and we got beat pretty bad in the Super Bowl that year, and it showed. So I think that's going to be an emphasis for us to really build the fronts.
Mike, some Titans fans that already are thinking that the team might not be signing free agents at all, or close to that. I guess I just wondered, can you clarify a little bit your sort of policy on being more selective in free agency than perhaps the team was?
Like I said, I think, we're going to be a draft and develop team, but we're certainly going to, have our hand in free agency at some points, but you have to be disciplined and smart with it. I think it's important to fill for role players, and guys that are good locker room guys. And when you have a young team, those are the type of guys you need. And like I talked about before, that's what we did in Kansas City when we weren't a very good football team. We brought in some tough veteran, smart guys that could really change the room. Guys like Anthony Fasano and Mike DeVito. I think those are the things we're probably going to be looking at.
Mike, you mentioned.
I'll answer your question. I know you asked me as well.
Big, fast, smart, tough football players who love winning more than anything else, right? But when it comes to building the roster, of course, we want to be big and tough in the trenches. You want speed on the outside. But the question you're asking about the smart and toughness part, that's when we get with the coaching staff. That's part of roster building. You figure out what positions are the ones that you can get away with a little bit less. And that's something, the conversation we will have with Brian Callahan, we'll have with Denard Wilson on the defensive side of the ball, where maybe if you can't find the complete package, like what are those positions where we can get away, or where we actually need someone who is just a smart, tough, gritty football player. But there's other positions that you have to have the speed, you have to have the explosiveness, you have to have the size and the length to affect the game that way.
Your initial conversations with Brian been like?
They've been great. We've had mutual friends over the years and coworkers. And of course, we competed against each other over the years when he was in Denver, and then, of course, his last stop in Cincinnati. But yeah, we've had great talks. During the interview process, we had great talks, and we're going to continue those talks, and we're going to head down to these all-star games here coming up. But just getting a feel for the entire roster. That's really the first thing that we have to figure out, and then discussing the strengths and weaknesses, and then I'll meet with his staff as well.
Mike, people up and down the draft with the Chiefs they've been able to find guys like LeJarius Sneed in the 4th round, Trey Smith in the 6th, Tyreek Hill in the 5th. What is the key to not only identifying those players, but developing those players so that they can do more than cover a punt for you?
Yeah, I think like I talked about, we did a tremendous job. First of all, Chad talked about with the meetings. I mean, we sit in a room and we watch every player. So there's not a player in the 5th, 6th, 7th round that the GM does not watch. So that's just our process. And then when we bring the coaches in the spring, that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure there was a vision and buy-in for the player. So we wanted to make sure we're on the same page on the player that we were taking. They knew exactly what they needed to develop and get better at. So some of those players, you mentioned, even like the Jalen Watsons and the Sneeds that we had there, we knew exactly what we were getting, and the coaches knew exactly what they were getting. And I think that's important on being on the same page.
Talked about words like unity and alignment. What, maybe aside from your relationship with Chad, specifically equips you to kind of be that bridge piece for this organization?
Besides my relationship with Chad?
Yeah, or maybe if that's a factor, but
Yeah.
just for you specifically, why
Yeah.
are you uniquely equipped to kind of be this bridge and unity and alignment?
Yeah, because I've seen it in Kansas City, and I think that was one of my roles there. I oversaw the personnel department, and I would try to connect other departments in that building, whether it was a training room, strength and conditioning. And I just knew if there wasn't alignment and communication in the building, then it just doesn't work. I've seen dysfunction before too, and I've seen when it works. So when everybody's on the same page, rowing in the same direction, they know they have the same vision for what you're trying to accomplish, and the communication is at a very high level, then you can have success. And that's what I experienced in Kansas City. That's why I believe in it.
When we walk into the draft room, for example, one of the things we talk about, and you mentioned this before, about how titles don't matter. Everybody's title gets checked at the door. We walk in there as one unit. And my scouting report is going to be on display for everybody in that room to look at and evaluate, as well as his and everybody else in that room. And we're all in there collectively trying to get this right. And the guys on our staff, maybe the scouting assistant who's just getting started, is going to see that I missed on a player. That maybe I had a bad day at the school that day, or I didn't have a good evaluation. It's going to be on display. So we're all being held accountable in that room together. But also it's a development piece for our young scouts too, as they get to see and watch how this whole process comes together. So that's what's maybe unique about this, and why this has been successful in the places that we came from. We've seen it work, and we've seen people leave those places and be successful in other organizations by implementing that process. That's why we believe in it so much.
Mike, you talked about serving the players. To what degree in your relationship with them do you want to be their friend? And to what degree do you need to be, does it need to be?
I'll have it's an open door policy for me. As a leader, you're a problem solver. So if there's issues with the players, I want them to always feel comfortable coming into my office and talking with me. Our job is to maximize their ability, whether that's through coaching, strength and conditioning, sports science. Everything that we do is to enhance our players. And you have to hold them accountable to that too. And I think the biggest part when I talk about, bringing in people with character, that, you really don't have to push them as much. They're self-accountable. They do it themselves. So that's why I think it's important, we go through this process and we acquire players, that we're bringing the right type of players that have that mindset.
Mike, you talked about, I guess, Patrick Mahomes earlier, how important, maybe as you start your job, is it to find that quarterback, and you explore every avenue, whether it's free agency, draft, and do you think there will be some guys currently on the roster? Do you think you'll have some good options available?
We're keeping an open mind on this, but the quarterback is the most important position, arguably, in sports. So you have to solidify the quarterback position. So we're going to turn over every rock, whether that's free agency, draft, or, we have quarterbacks on the roster here. We're going to give him every opportunity to play and to compete. But we're going to attack this thing. We're going to be relentless attacking this until we find the answer.
What are the attributes you value most in the quarterback?
Well, you have to have the physical arm talent, obviously, to make every throw in the league. Accuracy, decision making are big parts of it. The way you process coverages. The game's changed a little bit too, so having mobility, not just a pocket passer. And of course, the leadership part is a big part. They are the face of the franchise. They are your leader. They're the ones that are going to stand in front of the team every day, and they're going to follow them. And that's what they do. They follow, Patrick Mahomes. They follow Joe Burrow. That's what they do. That they set the tone. They're the most important, arguably the most important position in all of sports.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
That was Tennessee Titans' new general manager, Mike Borgonzi, his introductory news conference. We will react to what Borgonzi had to say coming up next. Willie Dunnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063, The Game.
All right, let's talk Loan Pronto. What if you could get an extra several $1,000s or even a couple $100,000? If you own a home, you can get that money in less than a week with Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto is the leader in quickly converting home equity into cold hard cash, so you can pay off your credit cards or start that home remodel. Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access that cash from your home. There's no paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk fees, often no appraisal. The average homeowner has over $300,000 in equity. That's your money. You could use it if you need it. Get approved in as little as 1 day with no hard credit pull up front. Go to loanpronto.com to get the details. 615-499-5780 is the phone number. Get the money you need. Loanpronto.com or 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval. NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
D Mace, Fang, Ginadonic, 1025, 1063 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. We just heard from new Titans GM Mike Borgonzi at his introductory news conference. By the way, we are expecting to have Mike Borgonzi on this program tomorrow. We are still working out the specific time, but the expectation is that Mike Borgonzi will join our program at some point tomorrow. Looking forward to talking more with Borgonzi. Gentlemen, the question that we always have to ask at this time, did Mike Borgonzi win the news conference? Willie, we'll start with you.
First, let me apologize for my nasally voice today. It is giving me a lot of problems, but I don't know if 7 goals last night contributed, but I'm battling through. I feel fine, but I was pretty impressed with Borgonzi's delivery, demeanor. I think he has gone through the ranks. I think he understands what a winning program looks like. I don't think we are quite clear on the process. I think they are downplaying the who has final say series of questions that they knew were coming. Did they win the press conference? I thought Borgonzi elicited some confidence. I think. I feel good today, but that means very little in the big picture.
Yes.
We have to give the guy a chance. We have to give Brinker a chance. I think there'll be a lot of time spent on the whole structure question, and that's logical because it is an important question. But I think at this point, it's time to just show me. It's the state of Missouri. Show me state. But I did like what I heard from Borgonzi, but he kept it pretty basic. I don't think there was anything super profound of what he tried to do. I think he tried to keep it simple.
One thing I did hear at the beginning, Derek, and I got a chuckle out of it, was when Mike Borgonzi was going through the reasons why he chose to leave the Kansas City Chiefs to join the Tennessee Titans. He mentioned it checked a lot of boxes, and I took off my headphones and I said to you, Derek, probably don't want to talk about checking boxes as Titans general manager because Rand Carthon stepped in it big time when he mentioned that during the offseason. But Derek, what were your thoughts on Borgonzi's introductory news conference?
Listen, I'm not sure he eased Titans fans' anxiety, but I'm not sure that he made it greater either. I think if you walked in, listened to the press conference, you're at the same point you were at before you listened to the press conference. You still don't know exactly what's going on. He talked a little bit about Kansas City, and he said, well, they're not concerned about titles. I would like to, sit in a meeting when and ask that question, or just sit and observe, who cares about titles or who don't, or behind closed doors when each one of them are talking.
At some point,
yeah,
somebody had
has
to pull
make a
rank.
decision.
Somebody
Exactly.
has to pull rank at some point.
Absolutely. At some point, whether it's Andy Reid or the actual GM,
Brett Veach,
somebody has to say, no, this is what we're doing. Okay, and everybody understands that as they go into these meetings. That, hey, listen, yeah, we're all trying to, because he talked a lot about we being a part of the decision making, especially when Jared asked him the question that he asked. He went into, the we don't care about, we're going to cut, he did use the word collaborate. He used it once.
There were a few uses of the word collaboration.
Absolutely.
Or synonyms of.
Exactly. So
do you think they sat before the news conference and said, okay, guys, we can't use the word collaborate? And Chad Brinker opens the drawer, dusts off the thesaurus. All right, collaborate.
Yeah, so, I mean, listen, he said some things that, you're interested, said some things that just felt like, we've heard that same song over again. I'm like Willie, and I'm sure a lot of other people out there that are somewhat still sort of in haze about, how this thing is going to go. It needs to work. However, y'all want to structure it or don't call it a structure or don't care about titles and all this other stuff. I get that. But it needs to work because you're asking the fans to be patient with you and you really haven't given them. If they walked into the press conference thinking one thing, I don't think they walked out of it and saying, well, man, I'm changing my mind. No, I think they think the same thing. So I believe they think the same thing. So again, you're asking them to be patient with you. You haven't been patient with those within your organization. The owner hasn't, but you're asking your fan base to be patient. You're asking them to write out these 6-figure checks or 5-figure checks to you. If you're asking them to do all of that and there's no true clarity on who ranks or who's making the ultimate decision, you better start winning, and you better start winning very quickly because the fan base has been patient, and they've been patient for 2.5 going on 3 years. So when they've been patient that long, you don't need to be asking them for their patience, and they're still like this. There's just this ambiguity in regards to how does this thing really run?
I think, too, I was looking for a little bit more clarity on the objective for this year as opposed to the big picture.
And we can ask him that tomorrow.
Yes. And he did, I think, say we need some time. You've got the string. He emphasized how you've got to draft and develop your roster. You need core players. He didn't really go as far as to say, and on this team, they're very light in that category. So I think he intimated it's going to take some time, but I was wondering if he would be asked more specifically the objective for your one-loss record this year, your first impression, as opposed to really how you're going to sensibly, realistically build a championship team, which is going to take some time. So I was hoping to hear a little bit more detail about that plan, how much is it a long-term versus short-term approach. And then they did try to, I know Jared was the one that really tried to pin him down on plausible things that would come up. Are you going to trade the first pick? Part of the rooms thinks that, and you're divided on, well, maybe this number 1 pick overall is the guy we really want, and we shouldn't trade the pick. That is really where the rubber meets the road. And Chad Brinker said you're going to have a lot of discussions leading up to the draft. So I buy that to a point, because when you have the first pick, you have from now until the day of the draft to go through that and break ties. I think it's more interesting if you're making a decision to trade down, or somebody's really standing on the table to pick this guy right now. That's when I think it's put to the test, this structure of, okay, we're not really worried about whose title is who has the final say. It's going to work itself out.
And that's what Jared was trying to get to.
Yeah, you could say that, but there are times where I think somebody's got to make the call.
And
right?
He did not answer the question.
They really weren't clear on that.
Yeah, he danced around, and that's what I'm talking about. And when people talk for a while, they answer the question that you asked them without even knowing it. We're still trying to figure out, how does this thing really run? Like when it was Mike and John those days, we knew how it was ran. And then after that, it started getting a little murky, and now it's completely in the dark. And if you can't give a definitive answer, because like you said, Adam and Willie, you've emphasized it, at the end, somebody has to make a decision.
We have one texter who speaks to your point, Derek. One texter says, Borgonzi said in Kansas City they didn't have titles, and that's great when you're going for your 3rd consecutive Super Bowl, but when you're the worst team in the league, you need some structure.
But I agree. We've talked about the title itself, the words on the title, and I think that's what the point was. They don't mean a whole lot at the end of the day, but it is who works together, who's the leader, right? When there's a wolf pack, there's a leader of the pack, right? There is a structure that has to come together, regardless of how you name each person in the pack.
Trey is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hey, I caught the back end of that news conference, and what I got out of it is that he don't know what he's doing.
Why do you say that?
I say that because if I was up there and somebody asked me, how am I going to make the Tennessee Titans better? I'm saying I'm going out there getting all the head busters I can to come in here to make this team as good as it can, and we're going to start from here, and here. There was still no structure there. He's talking about 3 different people making a final decision on a player. That's the same thing they did 2 years ago. It's the same exact thing. I give him no roses, none at all. And that's just what I think about it. And that's what the fans think about it. Why are you hiring people that still don't have experience in what they're doing? And I love you guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, Trey. Quickly, thoughts on Trey's call there?
Listen, I understand. I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't know. I'm not going to, but I understand why Trey feel this way. And I would understand, why other people, when they choose to call in or text in, feel the way that they feel in regards to, again, if you felt that, this team was like, it was no direction or just confused. If you walked in there with that thought as a fan, I can't believe that you walked out thinking, oh, now I know what's really going on. You probably walked out of it and said, I know no more now than what I did before I walked in there. Other than he introduced me to his family. I know his family. I know his parents are back in Boston trying to figure out a way to stream. I know his best friend and his brothers have been his close confidants. That I do know. In that nobody has a title at Kansas City. They don't care about titles. But beside that, I don't think there's, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, seriously. And fans, if y'all felt y'all have learned something really about the organization more that y'all didn't know, please call in or text in to the show.
615-737-1025.
Yeah, because I would love to. Because if I'm wrong, okay, I'm wrong. But I don't think you walked in and walked out saying, man, I know more. That's just me.
We'll bring Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow into the conversation. We'll get his reaction to Mike Borgonzi's news conference, and we'll talk more about all of the things that we love to talk about. Final say and such. We'll do that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063. The Game.
All right, let's talk Lee Company. What a night last night at Bridgestone Arena. The Predators down 5-1. The first time in Predators history they come from 4 goals behind to win a game. So that was an exciting comeback against the San Jose Sharks. Rematch tomorrow night out in San Jose. A 2-game road trip coming up. Why do I say this? Because it's time to tell you about Lee Company, proud sponsor of our Nashville Predators coverage here on 1025 The Game. And so you'll be staying up late with Max Hurst and company with the Sharks-Ducks combo with this 2-game trip. Lee Company's got you covered, meanwhile, back here in frigid Nashville as the heaters work themselves through and keep your house warm. If you're having trouble with that, call them at 615-567-1000 or go to leecompany.com. That's 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com. Urgency is big. We don't want you to be unsafe if your heater doesn't work. They'll be there as quick as they can. They're a phone call away. And also think long-term as well. Air conditioning in the summer, plumbing, electrical, all your needs. One phone number, 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com.
D-Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you, joined by Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. Hutton, I know you were listening, just like the rest of us, to Mike Borgonzi's news conference. What was your biggest takeaway from what we heard, or maybe what we didn't hear from Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker within the past hour?
Hey, guys, look, I think going into this, my thought was, at best, the vast majority of us would come out of this, media, fans, whoever's listening, at best thinking, okay, prove it. And at worst, I think some would come out of this going, yeah, okay, I've heard this before. Okay, go prove. Guess we got to watch you go prove it. You know, like it's one or the other. And I think by and large, I think the reaction today will be somewhere in the middle. I like much of what Mike Borgonzi had to say. I'll say like the live tweets and posts on X during the first hour with Brinker, it's extremely hard to dive into the context of what those posts are. I want to hear him say it or watch him say it more than anything. I think that deserves a lot more context there. And, you know, Stillman and others who have been there will certainly give us that. Here's the thing. I understand there is the hierarchy of who's in charge and doing what. At the end of all of this, guys, I think the important thing that they have to get right is that they know what they don't know. Because they don't have a ton of experience in that building right now. There's a lot of people either learning on the job or have been on the job for a very short amount of time, and they're adjusting to things. So if they get that part right, which is extremely difficult to do, when you don't have someone who's, you know, has the skins on the wall, so to speak, and has been in certain experiences. I mean, they've been in the rooms when these things have happened. Have they made the call? What it's like to feel the weight of the pressure to make the call on something. That's the intriguing part to watch here, and that's Chad Brinker's ultimate decision there. I mean, he is the football czar. He's the executive of all things football. I believe Borgonzi. I believe what they're saying whenever he's going to make the draft picks. But the tiebreaker scenario, I mean, that's clearly been some type of issue because now Brinker is in charge of making that call.
There has been a lot of ambiguity regarding the Titans' power structure over the past couple of years. And we have some texters on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com talking about this structure and why do we spend so much time talking about it? Well, this organization is in disarray. And it has been for several years. Well, not several. It's in disarray for a few years now. And as they are trying to build this thing back up, fans want to know who is in charge of making these decisions. And although Borgonzi did say during the news conference that he'll have full authority of the free agency process and he'll pick the players and he'll run the draft, I felt then Chad Brinker, either this morning when he held his news conference that nobody could listen to, or even at this news conference, I felt like Borgonzi said something about, you know, I'll have full authority, but then Brinker would say something that seemed to undercut that. I just felt like we did not come away from the news conferences today with any more clarity on how this operation is going to be run. And I think that is an issue with Titans fans.
And we would see things, I think, with a clearer view if this hadn't been a change in philosophy or a change in overall the mission statement of how they're going to do things. We've seen the change over the last 3 years in the structure and doing either the 180-degree turn or pointing to what they're going to do different and why it's going to work. I mean, much of what think about what we heard last year with, collaboration. I think what we're seeing and what we're hearing today is a mixture of both. Like, that's why you have both ends of the, full authority type deal. And they're trying to mix in everyone's going to be very collaborative in this process. It's hard to do whenever you have one person making the call. And I think that what they're trying to push across is Borgonzi's making the call unless Brinker is the tiebreaker. That's just for whatever reason very difficult for them to explain, and they're for whatever reason they don't want to explain it that way. But I mean, let me also add in. I've done a lot of thinking about this because my assumption was, and I think everyone would assume, Brinker's just going to go with the Green Bay guy. The fact that he went with Borgonzi, I know he's got a history with the guy, but the fact that he went with Borgonzi, they don't share an agent, which I think is important because a lot of times these GMs are interviewing people based on their agency, trying to get either an interview rep or they're trying to pair up guys that they know and they don't really know each other. So it's an arranged deal through the agency. That's important to note because they clearly made a call based on what he wanted to do, not what he felt like, he had to do. So this can work. I don't want to shoot it down and say it can't work, but it hasn't worked when we've listened to what they've put forth in the structure elements of things over the last 2 years, especially. So what's going forward that will be any different? It's got to be the clarity of it. And that's where we're still scratching our head a bit, because again, I think we sit here today and we say we absolutely believe what and are engaged in what they're saying moving forward because we haven't heard this before. We have. And that's why I'm saying I think that at best coming out of today, you had to have this kind of kind of a very stern but believable response of, okay, go prove it, go show us. And I think at best that's what they got out of today, even from the naysayers, and others are probably just kind of an eye roll, going, well, you're in the position, so you're gonna have to go prove it or not. We'll see in a year.
The way I look at it is it's just like an election. Listen, if you were for the guy before he got here, then or you didn't have no opinion before he got here and you listened to him, you probably formed the opinion of, hey, I like what he says. He's been in Kansas City. But if you had a bad sort of outlook or a bad perception of this whole situation, I don't think you walked out of it saying, oh, I feel much better now. I think you walk out of it thinking, man, I'm in the same place I was in before I got there in regards to what's going on as far as the structure of this team.
But Mace, I'm with you, man. I don't even think it's about Borgonzi, though. If it's just Borgonzi, I think everyone's in line with what he's saying, right? Like there wasn't a lot of detail. There wasn't. It was very surface level. But we can look back on what we've heard in years past and say the same thing. But it's just about what's gone on with the detail in between press conferences of this month over the last several years, and it's that lack of clarity there that everyone's trying to figure out and scratching and clawing to get in terms of information. And look, they want to, let me give an example. They want to obtain draft picks. They want, 12 of the top 100 over the next 3 years. These are the two guys that we were told were leading the charge and negotiated everything for the L'Jarius Sneed trade for a 3rd round pick. So like that's an example of giving up assets and then now saying that they're going to obtain assets. Now, Kansas City did that, but I mean, Mike Borgonzi, if what I think PK was pointing this out, and I have no reason not to believe it from Koharski, would Borgonzi trade L'Jarius Sneed again? That's a question to ask. And Brinker was on the other end of that. Again, I'm just going based on what's been reported and with what I heard today. It's a different philosophy than obtaining veteran draft picks or veteran players for an extremely valuable draft pick that they're now saying they wish they had.
Now, do you make of anything that Amy was not here today because she was at the Rand Carthon as well as the Brian Callahan, but she chooses not to, for whatever reason, she chooses not to be here with another. This is a monumental hire, I believe, because of the track they've been going down, the road they've been going down, and it hadn't been good over the last couple of years. So with that being said, this is a monumental hire. Why are you not here? And this goes to, what the perception the fans have of her, an absentee owner or owner that meddles and then leaves and don't know what's really going on.
Look, all the only thing that cures that mindset is winning. Winning, and she'll be the owner that tailgates with fans prior to games. The mindset will flip on Amy Adams Strunk. back and forth. I mean, that goes on with any organization. I think this. I think her not being there, I would say, is expected. Quite frankly, maybe you guys disagree, but this is in line with exactly the way they laid out things through that press release, and through, well, if not a press release, through the article at TennesseeTitans.com with Jim White's article with the quotes. Burke Nihill clearly said that everything else outside of football he's overseeing over that, and Brinker is the executive in charge of football. That guy was there, and he more or less it's his department, and it's on him. Well, now it's on him and Borgonzi, and we'll see how much they disagree. I doubt they disagree a whole lot. I mean, I don't know why you hire someone and why you take a job with someone that has the type of power Brinker does if you're not going to see eye to eye on many things. And the question really isn't about what they do with number one, because they can answer that question fairly easily. There's only one pick between now and pick number 2, and it's the Tennessee Titans. They'll have that figured out before draft day even comes. But the rest of the draft is really where you start to see how they maneuver and how they manipulate the draft to get what they want. And if it's Brinker that wants to make a move, it's going to be Brinker's call. But it's still Borgonzi who's making the picks. I think that there's still, a bit of there's plenty of questions there. Those are the questions we have. Amy Adams Strunk has already made it clear that Brinker is the tiebreaker. He has full authority.
You're right. He's making the pick.
Yeah.
Brinker's actually making the decision. You can go. I made the decision here. Here, Willie, you go ahead and call Goodell and tell him this is who we want to pick.
And hey, you're right. I mean, I'm with you on
saying
that.
that tongue in cheek. I'm kidding, but
I
I'm not kidding.
know. Yeah. But if we've ever been in a meeting, there's still a lead, that someone's in charge of the meeting, even if that person that's in charge isn't leading the meeting. You know what I mean? Like, you're still going to throw out questions and ideas, and you'll have some collaborative assets or aspects to it. But after the meeting, there's still like 1, 2, maybe 3 people to get together in an office and still discuss what just happened, and then come up with the consensus. And the consensus is who's making the decision. That is always going to be Chad Brinker.
Yeah, I think you can't blame Borgonzi for things that have happened when Brinker was around. I think all the questions are surrounding Brinker and his ability to execute this. I agree with the philosophy of it doesn't really matter what your title is. Your title could say something one way, but it really doesn't mean anything. It's how you work together. So let's just see how it works. I think there is some skepticism that Brinker could pull it off just because they've struggled so much. Here's one thing, Hud, I wanted to ask you about, and that is I was a little, I shouldn't say surprised, because I knew there was so much that was going to revolve around who makes the final call, etc. But I didn't hear a whole lot of expectation level, how long Borgonzi thinks it's going to take to build a roster that he's grown accustomed to for Kansas City. If he thinks it's realistic that you could fill all the holes in 1 year. He didn't have to say rebuild in my mind, but I didn't think there was a line of questioning that pinned him down on that. He kept it pretty vanilla, and he stayed away from that topic.
Yeah, and we didn't. I mean, the big question too, Willie, is quarterback. Like, which way they want to lean, or if you're talking about this job, aren't you talking? Are we going veteran? We're going rookie, and how you view things right now. I mean, that's imperative to answer the question you're bringing up too.
Yeah, and it's early. I think I've heard more than one general manager saying, "Hey, look, I just got here. We're going to start this process. I'm going to start really getting down and dirty with what we have and what we don't have." But I think you should be able to understand enough of where they are to be able to give people a picture that, hey, this is going to take a while. I don't think he emphasized it very much, especially after what Amy Adams. I think Amy Adams was the one in that release that set the bar higher than it should have been. And that put everybody in a bad spot when she said, we've got the great young quarterback. We've got all these great young players. We just need the right coach. And I think they're going to learn from that. But I think I was looking for even more of a, hey, look, we've got the first pick for a reason. There's amazing things happen in this league. There's always a team that turns it around. But realistically, where we are right now, this is going to take a little time.
Yeah, and it's when she said that, she actually said in her own quote, she was unapologetically she was unapologetic about having high expectations. So I mean, that hasn't changed. Just look at her moves each offseason since then. Like that has not changed, and I don't think that will. So I think that's part of it. Is you have an owner who wants to win, that is willing to spend money to do so, is willing to pay people that aren't working for her to not work for her, and to go pay new people, and then assign roles that are in her mind definitive of who has power, and then those people delegate. But within that, you have those that are making decisions, realizing where they are on the roster. They're telling us that the roster isn't good enough. I mean, we know that. I mean, that they know that. They've said that. But then you have the ownership is saying, yeah, we have higher expectations than where Mike Vrabel was. We certainly have higher expectations than where we were this past year. So the pressure's on, not just to gradually staircase this thing, Willie. They need to show improvement and development. And that's really the key here. It's how long does it take? It cannot take them that long at all to show improvement and development. Where they want to get back to the postseason may take a year or two, whatever, but they have to show that they're in line with doing that. And that's what's held back the roster, and why she's made the move she has is because she doesn't see any step forward in the process of getting back to where her high expectations are. That I think that's the key for this group is they don't need to set the bar so low that they're looking 3 years ahead. I think the near future is just as important for them as the 3-year plan, but they have to stay within a 3-year framework in order to achieve the goals that they ultimately want to build the roster back. But they have to build back the top end, the upper crust of the roster to a point where they're showing that they're headed towards their ultimate goal. They haven't done that.
Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow joining us on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick as he does every week. Hutton, great stuff as always, my friend. Talk soon.
Yeah. Hey, and draft, develop, retain. That's what they haven't been doing.
I haven't seen that on a T-shirt yet. Have they printed those T-shirts yet?
They should. It'll be in the facility probably. Look, it sounds so simple. Every organization wants to do it. Not every organization does it. They've got to do it.
Thanks, Hutton.
Hey guys, thank you. Always enjoy this.
You have to draft players that you end up wanting to retain.
Exactly.
They haven't wanted to retain some of these guys.
Yes. Step one,
No doubt.
draft. Step two,
They could have
question
retained
mark.
Caleb Farley. That probably wasn't a good idea.
No,
They didn't want to.
no need to retain.
We shall see, my friend. Hutton, thanks as always.
Yeah. See you guys.
615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your reaction. We've got lots of texts to get to. You can call us as well. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game.
All right, time to tell you about F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. Every Friday, 1:45, we take it to the bank. Thanks to our friends at F&M Bank. Now, I want to tell you about a couple of the tools they have. Their attitude towards your business. They're committed to guiding you every step of the way with dedicated financial experts. They aim to provide a seamless process completely tailored to your unique needs. And I mean unique. They're right in the middle of your community. They've got 20 locations. Everybody's needs are different. Your business means more to them. So they're in the towns like Springfield, like Mount Juliet, like Murfreesboro, and they want your business and they want to meet your needs. They've got the great application process. So get in touch with F&M Bank's friendly team today. Discover how they can empower you and your financial goals. Visit them online at one of their 20, or just go to one of their 20 locations in Middle Tennessee and on up into Southern Kentucky to get started. It is myfmbank.com. That's the website, myfmbank.com. It's F&M Bank. We take it to the bank on Fridays at 1:45. Member FDIC.
Predators fans, tomorrow it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click. If you correctly guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the Preds game tomorrow night, you can win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Participate with Robbie and Rexroad tomorrow morning at 8:45. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Willie Dunnick, speaking of the Predators, he is off to San Jose with the team as it has a rematch against the Sharks tomorrow night in San Jose. A crazy game last night. We'll spend some time near the end of the program talking about that nutso game that the Predators won 7-5 against the Sharks last night. But we are still talking Mike Borgonzi, who was introduced as Titans general manager earlier today. We would love to get your thoughts on it. 615-737-1025. Derek, you mentioned it with Hutton. There was one person who was conspicuous by her absence in that news conference room, Amy Adams Strunk. She was not present for this news conference. And during Borgonzi's news conference, when you pointed out to me that Amy Adams Strunk wasn't at this news conference, I went back and I looked at the Rand Carthon news conference, the introductory news conference, she was there. The Brian Callahan introductory news conference, she was there. Do you find it odd that Amy Adams Strunk was not present for this news conference?
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and even though I've loved conspiracy theories, it does seem because, and I'm not saying this, and again, even though I love conspiracy theories, what I'm about to say is not because this is what I want it to be, or I think it's some clandestine type of deal. It was just, she was at Rand's press conference, and I can sort of understand why she was at Rand's press conference. Their first Black GM, first in franchise history, that has held, a title like that. That's the highest title. Well, no, but, being the GM, first time GM. So she had to be there. So I can understand her being at that one. But then she was at the Brian Callahan's. That wasn't a monument. I mean, it wasn't like Brian Callahan was the first, this and that. Yeah, he's the first year head coach. But I would tend to think hiring your new GM would supersede that in regards of importance, based on what this team has gone through the last few years. That if you're going to be there for a hiring of your head coach, which is big, then shouldn't you be there for the hiring of your GM as well? If it's only to do what you did with Rand Carthon, to make a statement so that the fan base can see that, oh, Miss Amy, she's there. Because the perception is right now, and I don't know if this is true or not. I'm not at the airport every time Amy flies her private jet in and sort of tracking her every move. So I don't know if she's here a lot or not. I don't know where she lives. But the perception is Amy's not here. She's never here. She doesn't live here, not even part of the time. She's not here. She fly in for the games and fly out. That's the perception. I'm not saying that it's true because I don't know. But that's what the fans believe. And then on top of them still having this sort of ambiguity in your front office, the owner doesn't show up. Did she not show up because she was probably in fear that questions would be asked of her if she stayed there, even though she would have just gave a statement and sort of set to the side? Is that why she didn't want to be a part of this? Because again, this is a monumental hire because this franchise has been going downhill for 4 years now. In the way each step, it's the sliminess of it all. I'm not saying that it happened that way, but the perception of it all. And we all know perception is reality, whether you agree with it or not. I don't agree with it, but I know that's how it can be. So for you to not be there, listen, you're writing your own narrative, Amy. You are, be it good or bad. You have an opportunity to rewrite the narrative. Take back what has been put out there about you. You have control of it. But you chose to give that control to Brinker. And you saying, I'm staying out of this. I'm going to do this. I trust Brinker. I get you trust him. You should trust him. But you should also be here to control the narrative, your narrative. Again, I go back to, you want these fans to pay that money. And I get it why you want them to pay that money. And that comes along with getting the NFL team in your city. You want it, Nashville? I'm not going to say you all of you wanted it. But the ones that did, well, here's what comes with it. And I said that long time ago. So, but if you're asking for 5 figures, 6 figures in some cases from fans, then at least you can be here when a monumental hire is in place. Now, if you don't feel it's monumental, then okay. That's what you feel. It's your organization. I want this organization to succeed. I want them to win. That's just the way it is. There's 2 organizations that I care about, and everybody knows what those 2 are. This one and the one in Baltimore. That's it. And I want both of them to succeed. That's why I love when they play, because I don't lose in any situation. I don't lose. But the perception of Amy is that she's an absentee owner that meddles. I'm not saying that that's what I believe, but that's the perception of what some of the fan base believe. But you gave them no reason to think otherwise.
So Chad Brinker, during his pseudo news conference earlier today, this was from Paul Kaharski's Twitter, quote, Chad Brinker on why Amy Adams Strunk won't speak. I don't have any answer. I believe he also said that Amy Adams Strunk has empowered him and Burke Nihil to speak on her behalf. But then Paul quote tweeted his own tweet and said this: I asked if, as the team tries to sell PSLs, she's not a front runner. Tailgates when times are good. Now delegates speaking responsibilities to Burke, Nihil, and Brinker. She'd accept the Lombardi Trophy and talk if the Titans win a title, but is AWOL now in bad times. There is a texter on our text line that says, the other perception from fans is that she will quickly return to the limelight when there's a success to take credit for. Meanwhile, when things are bad, she's going to hide. There are other texters who said, you want this organization to be run by football people. And now we're complaining when the football people are running the team. I hear what you're saying, Derek. The key word in all of this is narrative.
Exactly.
If
I'm
Amy,
not saying it's
right,
true.
If Amy Adams Strunk has decided with this restructuring that Chad Brinker is her proxy and her lone responsibility is to say, yes, you can pay that free agent this much money, or no, I don't want you to pay this free agent that much money. If that is her responsibility, her only responsibility is writing the checks. If that's how she wants it, that's fine. I think what some Titans fans are not so keen on is the team is performing poorly, so she has taken a step back. If this team becomes a massive success and she's going to be out there in front of everybody again, you can't be a front runner, as Paul Kaharski described. I think that therein lies the issue with some Titans fans. Mark from Nashville is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mark, my friend, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, what's that? What's up, Adam and D, May?
What's going on?
Y'all been waiting to hear from me, man.
Absolutely.
So, I know it's me you're looking for, so here I am. In regards to Amy Adam Strunk, Adam and D, May, y'all right about everything. She's the owner. She should show up. She should do Q&A. She should make her presence felt. She owns that team. She really is hurting herself. She's already been labeled a bad owner, meddling owner. Whether that's true or not, we really don't know that. But she's been labeled that. That's bad enough. And she should have a lot of say, more say, talk to the media more. Like I said, it's her team. She should be there. Now, what the GM that they hired today, gonna have to prove it. We've all heard it before. Some things he said was good. Some things we've heard before, though. So we're gonna see. Time's gonna tell if they can straighten this mess out, because it is a big mess there with that organization and stuff. And hey, all I can say, I hope they get it done. I'm not a fan. I'm not a Titans fan, but I want to see them do well. My team, I'm not even gonna say it on the air because they suck anyway.
Let's hear it, Mark. We need to know.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you, Adam. I'm a Raiders fan. I always have been.
The Raiders just hired a new general manager. Did you see that?
I know, but man, they're worse than the Titans. Getting Mark Davis, he's got to go.
Hey, at least y'all got Tom Brady.
Yeah, I wish let Tom Brady take over everything, but he's got to go though, man. I mean, I'm about at that point with Amy. I sit here and tell myself sometimes maybe she should just sell this team, man, and let a owner come in that's going to get that team back to respectability. It's gonna be there like a Kraft or Jerry Jones. It's gonna talk, not afraid of the media. I kind of wish that would happen. But D Mace, I want to tell you this before I go. I was looking at your numbers and stuff the other day, but I was also looking at my guy's number too. And you probably know who I'm talking about. Torrey Holt.
Mm-hmm.
Both of y'all deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, man. I mean, both of y'all have those numbers. Y'all deserve it more than anything, man. So hopefully, D Mace, one day, man, I can sit there and look at TV and say, my guy D Mace finally and Torrey Holt finally got that gold jacket. I'm wishing for that for you, man. No joke.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate
Thanks for the
that.
call, Mark. By the
Thank
way,
you.
the Raiders have hired John Spytek, the Buccaneers assistant GM who interviewed for the Titans job. The Raiders have hired him as their general manager, and the New York Jets have hired Aaron Glenn as their head coach. So some breaking NFL news as we're discussing this. But we will continue this conversation because there's some interesting conversation in our text line about this. 615-737-1025. Your thoughts on Amy Adams Strunk not being at the news conference today? Big deal, little deal, no deal. And should she just, quite frankly, should she just stay out of it? Should Chad Brinker be her proxy, make all of the decisions? Let us know. 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025, 1063 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Willie Donick will rejoin us tomorrow. He is about to take off with the Nashville Predators. They head out for 2 games on the road, at San Jose tomorrow, at Anaheim on Saturday. But we're talking Titans. Mike Borgonzi has been introduced as the Titans general manager. The expectation, the hope, is that Borgonzi will join us on our program at some point tomorrow. We're still working out the details, but hope to have Mike Borgonzi on our program tomorrow. We're taking your thoughts on all things Titans. We discussed before the break Amy Adams-Strunk not being present at this news conference. As I mentioned, she was at Rand Carthon's news conference when he was introduced as Titans GM. She was at Brian Callahan's news conference when he was introduced as head coach. She was not there today. Big deal, little deal, no deal. You let us know. 615-737-1025. In the meantime, Mike is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Mike, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, appreciate it. Hey, I'm a brand new listener and I'm a first time caller.
Thank you.
Came over from the competitor I was probably with them for about a decade, man. I tuned in last week to you guys and all the other programs on 1025, man, and the content. You guys are just killing it, man. So you guys got a new listener.
The check is in the mail, Mike.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Hey, but it's night and day, man. It's night and day. But so, I'm pretty excited about Borgonzi. I mean, like on just like the first glimpse. I mean, obviously this is the first. The things he said is you're always going to get the right things to say up front on the first press conference. But the man's done it. He's been there when they were good. He's been there when they were bad. He's seen the evolution with Patrick Mahomes coming into the fold and Andy Reid coming into the fold. So he knows the championship pedigree, and the man knows what it feels like to lose. I'm really excited about this at first glance. As far as Amy goes, as a leadership role, being the owner of an organization, man, you got to be present. You have to even just being seen and not being heard speaks volumes, because everybody that's buying tickets to the game, everybody that's feeding on these Titans radio programs and Titans TV programs and all that, coach talk and all this, like, we're all spending money on this, and we want to be able to know that the person who's at the top of the organization supports us and cares enough about the hire that she's made in order to move us in the right direction. So by all means, you guys are correct on that. She has to be there. I appreciate it, guys. I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks for the call, Mike.
I mean, listen, and I'm sure we're going to get some calls that, individuals say, hey, listen, I don't care if she's not there. Good, she wasn't there. Listen, because I'm neither, it's one way or the other with me. It's, if you dislike it, then okay. If you like it, then okay, I'll respect that. But in regards to the optics or the perception, when you're asking people to pay this money and you're not around, then they look at that sort of disingenuous in some sense. But I did like what he said. He said he was excited at first glance, I guess, with just Borgonzi. And I know what's going to happen. See, Borgonzi is getting the stench from Brinker. Does Borgonzi deserve it? No. But he's getting the stench from Brinker and how all of this happened. So I can understand some callers coming in and saying, hey, listen, what I thought when I came in, I don't think no different. Or when I came in, I did like what Brinker said, or I like how Brinker approached it. We had a caller with Macquarie said he liked what Brinker said, not Brinker, but Borgonzi said about free agency. So you're going to have some of that in play. But again, it goes to, Amy and her decision to choose not to be here on this day. There's only so many times. There's only few times that you get an opportunity to rewrite your narrative. And I think she missed the opportunity to rewrite that narrative. Now, again, like some people will think, as long as they're winning, I don't care what she says. I don't care if she shows up at all, as long as we're winning. I get that part. But Amy, you had an opportunity to rewrite your narrative of what your fan base is thinking about you. Some of your fan base is thinking about you, especially when you're asking them to pay 5 or upwards to 6 figures for PSLs, but you didn't do it. And I'm sure we're going to get more calls like this, like the one we got, the 2 we got today. She had an opportunity. She didn't, take advantage of it. I'm sure she'd give a sort of a statement or release a statement later, or talk about this again with Titan Network sometime down the line. I know she addressed it, but you had an opportunity to do it now, and you didn't.
Steve from Hermitage on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says a franchise begins and ends with its owner. Amy needed to be there if she was proud of the hire. Not being there speaks otherwise. Now, I wouldn't say that Amy Adams Strunk is not proud of hiring Mike Borgonzi. A lot of smart people think that Mike Borgonzi was the best GM candidate on the market and are praising the Titans for hiring Borgonzi. But look, there are plenty of owners, we'll call them the missing person owner, that you may not even know their name. Let me give you an example. This is not a great example because it's an ownership group. Let's talk about the Predators, for example. Before Bill Haslam came in, they have an ownership group that was chaired by Herb Fritch. There are a lot of Predators fans who could bump into Herb Fritch on the concourse at Bridgestone Arena and have no idea who Herb Fritch
I mean,
is.
no one knew, Alex Doherty didn't know the Chicago Blackhawks.
That was the GM,
Or
Kyle
GM, but still.
Davidson. Yes, that was very funny. And by the way, Alex Doherty will join me on Preds Insiders later this evening on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. But there are Predators fans who could literally bump into Herb Fritch on the concourse and have no idea who Herb Fritch is, despite the fact that he chaired the Predators ownership group for many, many years. So sometimes the best owners in sports, you don't hear from them. You don't see them. They sign the checks and that's it. And if Amy Adams Strunk wants to be that type of owner, if she wants to be the owner that says, Chad Brinker, you are my proxy. You have final say over whatever's going on in this organization. You come to me when you want to sign a free agent. When Mike Borgonzi wants to sign a free agent, you tell me how much I have to write that check for. I'll do it and we'll go. If that's the owner she wants to be, I'm fine with that. But you can't be both. If you're making the decision to be the missing person owner, you have to stay the missing person owner. If that's the decision she wants to make, she has to stay that way. If the Titans become the Chiefs one day with Mike Borgonzi as general manager, and he sprinkles some of that Chiefs magic fairy dust all over this operation, and in the next several years, the Titans are back to being competitive teams, making the playoffs, maybe even winning a playoff game, Amy Adams Strunk can't waltz right back up to that tailgate and say, howdy, y'all. She can't do that. So in my opinion, if you are out of being a front-facing person, even though she really wasn't a front-facing person, but you know what I mean. If you're out, you're out. Don't come back in when things start going well. Just stay out of it. That would be my opinion, Derek.
Well, I'm sure that opinion or that sentiment is being felt, across the fan base in some form or fashion. But that's not going to be the case, because when this team rolls out this season, she's going to be up front and she's going to be, buy the tickets and this and that. I'm not going to try to imitate her voice because I'm not going to be able to do a good job of that. But I'm sure she will be. She's a politician. I think people need to understand that, man. This is about her. She's in the business of making money. The best way she knows how to make money is not to show up all the time. Just to show up every once in a while with the good situations, the hiring of a Rand Carthon. Show up for that because he's the first Black GM. So show up for that. Show up for the hiring of a first-time head coach. But don't show up for the GM. Don't do that. Don't worry about that. But show up for these other things. And she's a politician. And listen, I'm not bashing her for that. She needs somebody to pay. She needs people to buy those seats. So Bert Nihill and the bunch are going to do whatever they need to do outside of the football stuff, the on the field stuff, to get you to buy tickets. They will glad hand. They will smile. They're going to do everything. And Amy's going to come in for those occasions to get y'all to buy those seats when it's warranted for her to be here. Or she's going to be here during the season. Now, again, I don't know if she lives here during the season or if she just flies in and out. But the perception is that she flies in and out. And she really isn't a big fixture in regards to the fan base here in Nashville.
One texter says, I agree Amy should have been there. However, we shouldn't assume that she's not there for a legitimate reason. She might be sick and didn't want to spread her germs. A lot of people might have been sick this winter. Maybe she's one of them. Hey,
you're right.
That's true. I wonder if that would have been addressed, though.
Yeah,
if she was sick,
yeah.
I wonder if Chad Brinker would have said, Amy would have loved to have been here today. Unfortunately, she's under the weather, something like that.
Yeah.
But my point is, if she is going to be out, one texter said, to me, Amy not being there signals that she wants Chad Brinker to basically be the owner 2.0. She funds everything, but Chad makes owner-like decisions. If that's the case, that's fine. I am fine with that. What I am saying is that when things start going well, don't start coming out of the woodwork, Amy Adams Strunk, and be a front-facing owner when things are going well. If you want to be out, that's fine. Just kind of stay out. That would be my stance on this. But I would love to hear from all of you, and we're going to continue to read our text here at 615-737-1025. On another note, Derek, Mel Kiper has released his first mock draft. It's a big deal when Mel Kiper puts out his first mock draft. There are going to be a lot of these mock drafts. I thought I would take a few minutes to talk about something other than ownership and general manager, and we'll get back into that. Mel Kiper, the number one pick to the Tennessee Titans, he has Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. And he writes, quote, I was a fan of Will Levis when the Titans took him early on day 2 in 2023, and there's still a chance he'll put it all together. I don't know about that. But he hasn't played nearly well enough to keep the job in Tennessee. The Titans had the NFL's second worst QBR and interception total this season as they bounced between Levis and Mason Rudolph. I'm sure new general manager Mike Borgonzi will listen to trade offers here, but his real decision should come down to Ward versus Shedeur Sanders. I actually have Sanders ranked one spot ahead of Ward on my big board. Ward has the early top pick buzz around the league, though, so that's where I'm leaning for now. He extends plays with his creativity, mobility, and strong arm. Ward led the nation with 39 touchdown passes this season, and he'll help put the Titans back on track. So that's Mel Kiper with his first mock draft talking about Cam Ward. And Mike Borgonzi was asked quite a bit about what he should do with the first round pick. David, do we have some clips handy? David will get some clips handy of Mike Borgonzi discussing the Titans' approach to the number one pick. But Derek, I feel like we've been hearing a lot about Cam Ward lately, and these things change like the breeze, my friend. In a couple of months, it might be Shedeur Sanders. For right now, it's Cam Ward, or it could be somebody else. But Cam Ward seems to be on the top of a lot of mock drafts and big boards lately to the Titans. What do you think of that?
I mean, if that's where they have him, I have been able to watch a lot of Cam Ward. I've seen a few games, and I couldn't, other than his numbers, I couldn't tell you too much about him. But they feel that Cam Ward, as you sit right now, because it's fluid, it will change definitely. Even when you had the surefire, Trevor Lawrence that everybody knew was going to be number one. There still was speculation there may be a defensive player drafted, just stuff just gets out. So whoever they choose to draft, if they draft a quarterback with the number one pick, if they keep it, it better be. Listen, this is probably outside of, I think it's even more important than when they drafted Steve McNair. Because at least with Steve McNair, they had a quarterback in place. Now, from what has been told, the quarterback and Steve, that relationship wasn't, as it went on, that relationship wasn't the best, because one was coming in to take the other's job. But it wasn't as important and more consequential than this draft, I believe, because of where the Tennessee Titans have been and what the narrative is of this team. If you choose to keep the number 1 pick and you draft a quarterback, I'm just saying a quarterback alone. If you draft a quarterback, it better work. I mean, it better work. You don't get a do-over with this. Because basically, your franchise was on a respirator. And lo and behold, you got a new heart. You better take care of it. You better it better be in the right body. You better take care, because if not, you're going to set your franchise back damn near a decade. So you better get it right. And I'm not using that as a scare tactic to the fan base, because I'm sure they probably think the same thing. If you choose to pick a quarterback, the first pick overall this year, when you have no quarterback, your franchise seems to be flailing. If you don't get that guy that could start your franchise, ask the Oakland Raiders how long they were in purgatory when they drafted their quarterback. Then they had to go out and get Rich Gannon, and but they had to circumvent the process. But ask some of these franchises when they had to put it all in on that first pick with a quarterback, and it didn't work, and how far they set their franchise back. Ask them see how it went for them, how long they were in it. So whether it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, I'm more partial to Shedeur because I've watched him a lot. So whether it's one or the other, it better be right.
Here's Mike Borgonzi from his news conference talking about the process of what to do with the number 1 pick.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback position, you need to go in person and see that player, whether it's practice, all-star games. So that's going to be a very important part of it. And then just, sitting down, meeting with the player, and have Coach Callahan, his staff, talk to him as well. As that's a big part of it. When we went through with Patrick, we identified him early. It was a rare skill set that you could see. And, we took it through the process in the spring, and we brought him in the building, met with him at the combine, to really figure out his football intelligence, which was very high. And then we had a plan for him when we drafted him. We had Alex Smith at the time, and we were disciplined with that plan. There was a lot of temptations to play him, especially, when you saw him in training camp, but we stuck to that plan. And that was part of the development of the quarterback. There was things that he needed to improve on. And we had a first-class person in Alex Smith that really took him under his wing and taught him that. So every quarterback's different in terms of the development and what they need. And that's the important part for us to figure out here in the spring.
That was Mike Borgonzi discussing the quarterback position and what the Titans will do at that position, whether they draft someone number 1 overall. As I said, Mel Kiper has Cam Ward going to the Titans in his first mock draft. That seems to be the consensus for right now, but things can change. What did you make of that answer from Borgonzi, Derek?
I think they're going to, in regards to, I think they're going to do what's best for the team, and they understand what doing that means. A part of it is if you're going to stay with the number 1 pick and you're going to draft a quarterback, you need to get it right. But if you're not, then you need to sort of move out of it, but strategically put yourself in a place where you can get guys that are going to be impact players sooner rather than later. So whether you keep the pick or not, you got to make sure that if you don't think one of these 2 guys, even though he understands that, man, you in this day and age, you got to get a quarterback, but he also understands that building and listen, they've already said it, DDR, draft, develop, and retain. So he understands if we do trade out of this pick, we got to be able to draft these guys and develop these guys. We're going to have to be able, because if we don't, giving up that number 1 pick is all for nothing.
615-737-1025 will continue to take your thoughts on the Titans. By the way, we have it confirmed. Titans GM Mike Borgonzi will join our program tomorrow at 12:30. Mike Borgonzi on the program tomorrow at 12:30. Looking forward to speaking to new Titans GM Mike Borgonzi. I also want to pass this along Some of you may have already seen this. There was a shooting at Antioch High School today. 2 people were shot. The person who opened fire then shot themselves. It's not immediately clear if anyone was killed, but if you have a student at Antioch High School and you need information regarding reunification, call 615 401 1712. All students will be taken by bus to 3754 Murfreesboro Pike, including car riders. So if you have a student at Antioch High School and you need more information, call 615 401 1712. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 1063. The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason. I want to say happy Wednesday to everyone and tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs. If you set out to lose some weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a goal to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment or come up a little short. But at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain. We tailor nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
what is your comfort level and understanding of the structure that is in place for you, Chad, so on and so forth?
Yeah, where I came from in Kansas City, we didn't really see any structure. We all kind of worked together to make the best decisions for the team. So we weren't really concerned about titles there. At the end of the day, we were trying to make the best decision for the team at that point.
That was Mike Borgonzi addressing the question we all want to know. Who's in charge here? A lot of Karen energy around lately. Can I speak to your manager? A lot of that going on right now with the Tennessee Titans. By the way, as I said, Mike Borgonzi, new Titans GM, will join this very program tomorrow at 12:30. Looking forward to talking to Mike Borgonzi for the first time. I hope this is the first of many conversations that we have with Mike Borgonzi. There was a texter who wanted us to ask him tomorrow if he'll be more available than the previous general manager. And I do think that's important. I do think it's important for Mike Borgonzi to be more visible, more available to the reporters, which is by extension to all of you, the fans. But we have a lot of questions for Mike Borgonzi, and we will talk with him tomorrow at 12:30. But that was the question of all questions today, Derek. They were asked to Chad Brinker before the news conference. They were asked to Mike Borgonzi during his news conference. Who's in charge here? And Borgonzi and Brinker did their best to avoid addressing that question head on. Though, I guess in saying that, Borgonzi did say that he would have full authority over the free agency process and run the draft. But then it felt like Brinker would say something that would sort of undercut that. I wasn't. I'm going to have to go back tonight and listen to it all over again.
Yes.
But it just felt like there wasn't a lot. I didn't leave that news conference feeling like I have more clarity on the situation. And look, it's nice that in Kansas City, they didn't worry about titles because they had the titles that everybody cares about, Super Bowl championships. Here, with the situation that the Titans find themselves in, titles are important. One texter said earlier, I wonder if they say that when they look at their paychecks. It doesn't matter what the titles are. I'm sure Chad Brinker's paycheck might be a little bigger than Mike Borgonzi's paycheck. I'm not going to ask him that tomorrow.
Just a wee bit.
That's none of my business. But the point is, it's nice to hear that, hey, once we get in that room, like I did hear something. We played some of the clip that Brian Callahan did. He did an interview with A to Z Sports yesterday with Easton Freeze of A to Z Sports. And then I was listening to Chad Brinker across the street this morning, and they both used the same phrase to describe this collaborative process. They both said something to the effect of, it's not like one of us is going to go up there to the draft board and somebody else, as David pantomimes it back there, is going to slap the other person's hand away. So clearly this is something they've discussed. Like, what are we going to say when we answer this question? Well, how about we don't slap each other's hands at the
So there
draft
will
board?
be no hand slapping.
There'll be no hand slapping.
In the room.
I don't know if there'll be any head slapping, but there will certainly be no hand slapping.
Will there be front slapping?
There could be some front slapping, some back slapping. Well, back slapping is good because that means you've done a good job. Front slapping is usually never a good thing. Either way, the Titans are trying their best to say, hey, we all get along here. It's going to be great. Except we've heard that before and it didn't work out so well. So what do you make of the Titans' team-wide effort here to let us all know that, hey, we're all on the same page? I'll tell you the one response, Derek, that made me stifle laughter. And this was no disrespect to Mike Borgonzi. Buck Rising asked Chad Brinker, this is the third iteration of this power structure or conglomeration, collaboration, whatever you want to use. What makes you confident that this time it's going to be right? And Chad Brinker just says, Mike Borgonzi. And I went, because it's just very, very cheesy. Very cheesy. But you know what? These news conferences, they're very cheesy. So they look, this full court press, Derek, on trying.
No, I hate to stop you, but it sounds like one of those movies when everything's about to come to an end, and they're thinking like, "Who's gonna help us? Who's gonna stop the meteorite?" And then that one guy stands up and says, "I am," or that one lady says, "He is." That's what it sounds like.
Borgonzi. Rated PG-13.
People, I'm laughing because this stuff is funny. It is truly
Yes,
funny,
but
and you got to make
I
light
understand what Chad Brinker
Yeah.
was trying to do there, but just I have to. I don't know if we have that clip. If we don't, we'll cut it eventually. But it's
Please
like,
get that clip.
what makes you think this time's gonna be different? Mike Borgonzi.
Please, David, whenever you get time, because I know you got a lot to do.
You got a lot to do back there, my
Exactly.
friend. But
whenever you get time, just pull that, man, because that is epic. That is an
it just
epic
feels
response.
like the Titans, Derek, are trying too hard here.
Yes.
To convince us that it doesn't matter what it says on our name tag or on the placard on our desk, because we're all going to work together. Except, as I said, they've said that for years and it hasn't worked out.
Well, here's the structure. What it currently is at this point now, this team doesn't, as we sit, have a assistant general manager, not that I see of. Maybe they haven't replaced that, or they have, and they just have.
I mean, the structure at this point is Amy Adams Strunk, Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, Brian Callahan.
But what I'm saying, is this team, which he came from, Borgonzi,
yes,
Kansas City, the structure right now as it sits, and maybe they feel they don't need an assistant.
Well, he
GM.
was the assistant.
That's
general
what I'm saying.
manager,
So they haven't
replaced
him
it yet.
But maybe they say, you know what? That's a job we just don't need at this point.
Right.
Clark Hunt, which is the chairman and CEO owner. You got Mark Donovan, which is the president. Brett Veach, which is the GM. And then who? Nobody but the coach. But that's not the way the Titans operate. It's that extra man in there or person in there that we're trying to figure out, well, what do you do? We asked you several different ways and you gave us several different answers, but you didn't really explain what this all is. You said nobody care about titles around here, which again, when you're winning, I get in the team. It's just like I understand the premise of nobody cares about who gets the credit. But in actuality, somebody does care who gets the credit or not. Or if did nobody care about the credit or the titles, like you said, Adam, all y'all need to get paid the same amount. I bet you, or you need to get paid what the president or whoever else is getting paid. Or he needs to lower his pay. I bet you won't do that.
Probably not.
So again, I get it that titles don't mean anything. Now, when you're winning, they don't. But ultimately, this team is not in a winning phase yet. And there are going to be some hard decisions that need to be made. And we don't know definitively who's going to make that decision. Well, I think it's Brinker. But then Borgonzi says no, he has control over the roster and he makes the picks. Okay. All right, little man, you make the picks, but I make the decisions.
It all sounds good until the time comes when a hard decision needs to be made.
And I didn't mean little man like
I
was calling him, but it was just like
the
hierarchy's like,
yes,
hey, little.
I hear what you're
exactly.
saying.
I'm not calling him a little man.
I understand that, but it all sounds nice until a hard decision needs to be made. And Mike Borgonzi can run the draft, and he may decide to do one thing, and maybe Chad Brinker doesn't feel that way. And I think it was, I can't remember where I heard it, unfortunately. But like, I don't, you wonder how many times it actually happens, right? Where there's this huge disagreement over what a team should do within the brain trust of the team. The GM wants this player. The president of football operations wants that player. The head coach wants this player over here. How often does it happen? Like, I guess that's the question that some Titans fans might have. How many times will Chad Brinker actually have to exert that I have final say power? We don't know. It might never happen, but it'll be curious to see what happens if a situation like that presents itself. And I've said this many times. The reason why we are so focused on this is because It's been unclear around here for years. And if the Titans do something well, we want to give the proper person credit. If things don't go well, we want to make sure that the right person gets blamed. We don't want to assign blame or credit to the wrong person or the wrong people. I would love to spend more time talking about football. Unfortunately, this team stinks and hasn't played a game in weeks and hasn't played a meaningful game in even longer than that. So until then, the palace intrigue of the Tennessee Titans front office will continue to be, first and foremost in a lot of people's minds. One texter says it's the scene from Arrested Development. I don't know if you've ever watched that show, Derek.
Yes.
It's the scene from Arrested Development when David Cross's character says, quote, "These people delude themselves into thinking that there will be another outcome, but it might just work for us." Maybe, perhaps. One texter, Tommy, has a question for you, Derek. He wants to know, what do you think about trading the pick to get a left tackle, move Latham to right tackle, and move back up to draft Jackson Dart, the quarterback out of Ole Miss? I like Cam Ward. He has a lot of McNair quality, but I feel depth helps the team more, and Dart is a stud no one's talking about.
I like Jackson Dart. Where would you get him in a draft? Would you because again,
I don't know where he's projected
I think he's
to
projected, he's that second tier of quarterbacks. I guess he's projected anywhere mid-second, to third round, somewhere around there. I could be wrong on that one. But because the class isn't so deep, he has to be up in that top 5 range. When you think about quarterbacks, so there's Cam, Shador, who else is in the mix?
Jalen Milroe. Carson Beck pulled himself out.
He's out. Jalen Milroe, the kid out of Jennings. Is it the kid that played in the one of the playoff games?
SMU's
SMU's quarterback.
Ken Jennings, I think.
So him, and then obviously you throw Jackson Dart in there, and the kid out of Ohio State, the kid from Penn State chose to go back another year. So Gabriel out of Oregon. So there are guys in the mix. So I would tend to believe, because this isn't a deep draft, he probably is seen as a mid-round pick.
So this was Mel Kiper's big board, rankings at every position. Shador Sanders at 1, Cam Ward at 2, Jackson Dart at 3, Jalen Milroe at 4, Kyle McCord of Syracuse at 5, Will Howard at 6, Quinn Ewers at 7, Dylan Gabriel at 8, Curtis Rourke of Indiana at 9, and Tyler, I think it's Show, out of Louisville at 10.
I like Quinn Ewers. He just hurt so much, man. I like the fight in him. He has sort of this Baker Mayfield sort of attitude about him, but he's just so injured. And which limits his mobility. The kid out of Syracuse I really like too, but
but
how
Titans
long will
fans
you develop?
The Titans fans don't want that.
Exactly. They want an instant starter. And it's Jackson. If they do draft Jackson,
he's
Dart,
not an instant starter.
would he be an instant starter?
I don't think so.
I mean, listen.
That Jackson Dart would be the type of quarterback you draft and then you go sign Aaron Rodgers for 2 years, and Dart sits behind Rodgers, and then Dart starts in his third season.
And I think that's how some people feel about all the quarterbacks in this draft, really the top 2 or 3. Like, draft him, but get somebody else potentially so he can sit a year and then implement him. But the Titans can't afford to do that. But if indeed, I like Jackson Dart, but I do like the proposition of trading out of that pick, moving down, not too far down, because you still want a guy that can come in and be a day one starter. Get that guy day one starter. And if you want to draft the left tackle, I'm not going down that road. I'm not, because I just think if you do the same things to address the same problems, and I don't even see the left tackle really as a problem right now. I think J.C. Latham is going to get a lot better next year. But I wouldn't waste, and it's not a waste, but I wouldn't use my number 1 pick after I've traded it on a left tackle just to move J.C. Latham
They
right.
need a player at a sexy
Yeah,
position.
yeah,
The
exactly. And
Titans
that's
need
what
a
I'm
player
alluding to.
like a
Yeah.
quarterback or a receiver
Or
or
run,
someone.
a defensive back
Right.
that could just be a
Abdul
shutdown guy.
Carter. Like they
Exactly.
need someone that fans can get excited about. This is no disrespect to JC Latham, who I think overall had a solid rookie season. You don't get jazzed up about a left tackle.
No.
You need a left tackle, but you don't get jazzed up about a left tackle. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the show next. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025, 1063, The Game. Stillman and Company coming up next. Jared was at Chad Brinker's pseudo news conference this morning. I can't wait to hear what Jared has to say about being in the room. I've read all of the quotes. If you missed it, Chase and Big Joe did dramatic readings
I
of the
loved it.
quotes during the Chase and Big Joe show. You can find that wherever you find your podcast, but it was highly entertaining. Willie is on the way to San Jose. He knows the way to San Jose. The Nashville Predators will have a rematch against the Sharks tomorrow. Puck drop at the ungodly hour of 9:30. Pregame at 8:30 right here on 1025, 1063 The Game. Want to take a minute to shout out the Predators. Derek, the first 4-goal comeback win in Predators history. They were down 4-1 at the end of the first period. They were down 5-1 early in the second period. They storm all the way back. They win 7-5 again. The first 4-goal comeback win in Predators history. They were 0 for 173 all time when down by 4 goals before last night. They've won 4 in a row, which is their longest winning streak of the season. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. They have a unique opportunity. Their schedule gets a bit softer. They're playing teams around them at the bottom of the standings. It's still a long shot for them to make the playoffs. I'm curious to see if they can build off of this. And one thing I was curious about, Derek, I looked this up. The morning the Predators woke up last season, they played the Blues. They won that game. That's when they started their 18-game point streak, their franchise record point streak. They were 4 points out of the playoffs when that streak began. The Predators were 16 points out of the playoffs when this 4-game winning streak began. They are 10 points out of the playoffs today. So still a long shot. And I know there are Predators fans who are listening, who are screaming about them blowing up their draft position. And I'm here to tell you, unfortunately, Predators fans, I'm with you. I think with how bad the season has gone up until this point, that the Predators should be as bad as they can be, get a top draft pick, and reload for next season. But the way the Predators have been playing lately, Derek, I think a lot of Predators fans' worst-case scenario is going to play out, that they're going to stay competitive for as long as they can. They'll just miss the playoffs, and they'll be picking 13th in the draft. But 4-goal comeback, that's nothing to ignore.
No, it's not. I think this team is starting to find, their identity, their groove. The first 4-game winning streak they've had in a good while. And it was in grand fashion. They had to come back from a huge deficit and end up winning still in regulation. What was it, 7-1, 7-4.
It was 7-5.
Yeah,
they were
7-5.
down. They were down 5-1 within about 5 minutes of the second period. They cut it to 5-3 at the end of the second period. Scored early in the period to make it 5-4, and then won 7-5.
Yeah. So listen, it's almost like you're hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst in regards to the Predators. You're hoping. I know there are some still hoping, and the team is hoping we can make it to the playoffs, because all they have to do is get in. All you have to do is be better than the third place, the second place wild card team, and that's Calgary. That's all you have to do.
The last I checked this morning, Derek, the Predators' chances of making the playoffs is 2.2%. It's going to take a lot more.
Oh, absolutely.
Than a 4-game winning streak. They will probably have to go on a point streak like they did last season, if not a little bit longer, because of the ground they have to make up.
But then they got to hope that even in that case, you got to do your job, but you got to hope that the teams above you,
right?
Vancouver, St. Louis.
It's an incredible long
Utah
shot.
Hockey, so, and that's not counting the 2 teams that are there now. Calgary, who has the second spot in the wild card, and then Colorado, who has the first spot. Not even talking about those 2 teams. But the only way you can have a shot is you take care of what you need to take care of. And it started, 4 games ago. Now they're on a 4-game winning streak. They need to keep it up. They play Vancouver again for the second time. That's a game they need to win. A scarf will be more than likely in the net. So that's a game that they need to win. And they need to just take care of their business. Because regardless, whatever they're doing now, I do believe will set the tone. And you hate to sort of put the cart before the horse, and I'm talking about next season, but it's imperative that they finish the season on a good note heading into next season.
Predators are back in action tomorrow night against the same San Jose Sharks. Hopefully, we will see Yaroslav Askarov in net. Maybe get a little UC Saros versus Yaroslav Askarov action, which we were deprived of last night. Puck drop again at the ungodly hour of 9:30. Pregame at 8:30. Right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. So get whatever caffeine you need and settle in with us. Predators and Sharks tomorrow. Jeff on our text line has a question for you, Derek, before we leave. He says, with your experience and knowledge and seeing how GMs go about their business, what is your opinion on the most important on-field unit or positions this team must put together to get this organization back on stable ground, having the foundation to build upon?
Wow. Outside of quarterback.
Yes, let's excuse quarterback because that's first and foremost.
Exactly. Outside the quarterback position.
Can I take a guess?
Go ahead.
Offensive line?
Yep. I think you have to establish your offensive line, because your offensive line, whether you're a extremely talented team or a team that's still trying to figure it out, your offensive, if you don't have that quarterback or you have a young quarterback, your offensive line is critical, because you want to set the tone with those guys up front. You want to make sure, especially having a young quarterback, that he's ushered into the league feeling comfortable in the pocket. The last thing you want is what Will Levis has went through the last couple of years, what we've seen other quarterbacks go through, that you put them behind an offensive line that isn't good, and then all of a sudden they take sack after sack after sack. And listen, if you that dude, you're going to overcome it. But if you're not that dude, it's going to put you further behind than not. So I do agree with you, Adam. For me, it would be, because that's how when I think of the Tennessee Titans, one of the first things I think of, if you're talking about groups, I think of the running back and the offensive line. More importantly, the offensive line, because this team has had a rich history of having good to great left tackles and right tackles, centers, guards. They've had that before, and it hadn't been too long ago. And when they've had that, they've been successful, regardless if you had an elite quarterback or just a good quarterback. When they've had an offensive line, they've been successful. Why? Because they can get back to their identity. Their identity, no matter who they hire, isn't a passing identity. That's not who they are. Their identity is to run the football, play physical, smart, intelligent football, and play really good defense. I don't care who they bring in here as head coach. That philosophy, those pillars should never change. That's why Pittsburgh is so successful. Why? Because no matter who they bring in, Ben Roethlisberger or not, they still run the football and run it with an attitude and play great defense. The Baltimore Ravens, no matter who they bring in, Lamar just set records. But when I think of them as being a physical, run-first team. They got pillars that they live by. And no matter who's at quarterback, he'd be a great one. These are our pillars, and we're going to do that. So Titans, I would say the most important part to me outside of the quarterback is the offensive line. Set that tempo.
One texter says about the Predators that they have the easiest strength of schedule left in the league this season, which is true. They do have the easiest strength of schedule left this season. And I'm curious to see what they do starting again tomorrow night as they look to extend their winning streak to 5 games. They are on a season high 4-game winning streak. All right. Before we go, just to confirm with all of you, Mike Borgonzi, Titans general manager, will join our program tomorrow at 12:30. If you have any questions that you want to know, you can text us and we'll make sure we read the text line. We'll take your questions into account as well. But we look forward tomorrow to speaking to Titans general manager Mike Borgonzi. That'll do it for us today on the show. Willie will be with us remotely tomorrow from San Jose as we talk to Mike Borgonzi, new Titans GM, again at 12:30. I can't emphasize this enough. Yes.
Borgonzi.
I love the accent, by the way. Boston accent just exudes toughness.
Yeah,
like you don't have to be tough, but if you sound like, he sounds like an extra in a Ben Affleck, Matt Damon movie.
He's getting ready to go to Donks.
Right. He's getting, on his way. I don't know if the Titans have a sponsorship with Dunkin' Donuts, but they probably should. But we will talk to Mike Borgonzi tomorrow. Jared is coming up next. He was in the room with Chad Brinker this morning. Can't wait to hear what he has to say. That's coming up next, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, wonderful, and blessed Wednesday. Our prayers go out to those who are affected with the shooting today over at Antioch. So our prayers and thoughts go out to them. But be safe, be love on your people. Have a blessed and wonderful Wednesday. Peace.